Hello, everybody. We are going over featured entries for the September Art Dare, and we are announcing the November Art Dare. If you would like to grow as an artist and you can't afford an art class, we've got everything you need to hear at Art Prof: critiques, tutorials, professional development, and workshops. How is your Halloween, Jordan? I've got my horns.
I don't
My
really
kids.
do. I don't really do much for Halloween. I kind of just sat here and worked, and I went to Trader Joe's and came back. So it's I haven't been a Halloween guy since I was like 10. So yeah, that's just me. But I appreciate that you all appreciate it.
Tell us in the chat, what were your Halloween plans? You guys have to see what I made. Okay, hang on. I got to take my horns off for a second
Okay.
to show you my masterpiece. Oh, it's so heavy. Oh, see what I made?
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, that's awesome.
I don't think it looks like him, though. He looks sort of worried, doesn't he?
Well, he looked kind of creepy in the first place, and with the whole zombie thing. So yeah,
Maybe if
but
we
those
turn him this way, he's a little scarier.
uh maybe you gotta get the right lighting. Maybe that's what it is. If you
Maybe
underlit
that's
him,
it.
I
Anyway,
bet it would work.
there he is. My kid better be happy.
MJ's gotta make an appearance on all the streams.
I know he does. All right. The first artist we're going to look at is Lori. And Lori has a painting of a deer and explains the deer felt magical to me. Wanted to create some mystery in the background, connect her to her surroundings with a bit of her sparkle. Without this addition, it felt lonely. So let's take a look at Lori's piece using primary colors from Winsor & Newton, Paul Rubens sparkle, and pearlescent on top, using a calligraphy brush from China. Well, what do you think? It's tricky to photograph some of this bling, so it's a little bit subtle, but I love this idea of creating this magical environment.
Yeah, well, first off, as a concept artist, I always appreciate the magical fantasy scenes and all of that stuff. And I like how calming this is. Like, and I actually think the subtlety of the bling is working really well for this because of the nature of this piece. Since it's calm in nature and everything, I wouldn't want to have something just blaring in my face like that. So I think it works really well.
People do oftentimes associate bling with something very loud and very, I guess, boisterous. And Lori, I just really like how your interpretation is so soft and it's so subtle. And what beautiful atmosphere. I mean, I just love this upper right hand corner, how it's really pushing back into the distance. And then isn't this texture in the foreground just beautiful?
Yeah, the brushstrokes, especially on the bottom right, I think are my favorite. I like how the green and the yellow paint are overlapping each other. It looks really, really nice.
Manette says it's very soothing. I'd love to see it in person. Nature does seem very shiny sometimes, so it feels very fitting. Yeah, and the bling you see in nature, sometimes it's barely there, and you have to look very closely to find it. And that's what I think you represented so beautifully, Lori. So, really nice job on that painting. All right, the next artist we're going to look at is Carolyn Smith, who I think might be here live in the chat. And wow, Carolyn did so many different pieces. Carolyn did a soda can inspired by Liza Liu, who's a contemporary artist, the acrylic pour. Carolyn made a sketchbook and also did a piece inspired by illuminated manuscripts. So this is so much fun to see all the contrasting ways that Carolyn used the bling. What do you think of the Coke can?
Oh, it's so much fun. I love seeing things like this. It actually feels like a Michael Jackson glove, honestly, just with a different shape to it. So doesn't it kind of feel like that though?
Yeah, it does.
See what I'm
Totally.
saying? It's like a metal Michael Jackson glove that you can drink out of. It's great. So no, I think it looks fun. I think that the way you kind of simplified the details, especially like right here on the back of it, looks really, really amazing. So really cool stuff.
Yeah, Carolyn is here live with us in the chat. I mean, your technique, Carolyn, making this was just so impeccable. I was so excited when I saw this in the Discord. And there's a whole world of acrylic pouring that honestly I don't know a lot about. But isn't this just mesmerizing?
It is. When I saw this, I was like, whoa, I want to explore this world. It feels like the Beatles mixed with some Alice in Wonderland, like came up on the canvas together. Like that's kind of how it feels to me. So really beautiful. I love the colors. I like the swirls. It's just excellent.
And we can also see that Carolyn made this book, which has this very lovely stencil. It has, I guess it's gold foil paper. And then the stitching is also got that golden color. And then we also have that pattern on the front. So a very elegant design, Carolyn, that again, oh my gosh, your craftsmanship is just so good, no matter what material you're using. And here we can see a little bit better the bling that's on the forefront. And this piece too, what do you think of this?
Oh, this is fun. I like how the tree's kind of coming out of the letter H. I like how even though I guess the front portion feels more graphic and flat, you have this landscape going on the distance in the background and just kind of playing with that space. I think that's really, really cool.
Oh, it's so fun. I mean, I am a big illuminated manuscripts nerd. I love this type of thing. And Carolyn, I just really like the ornamentation, like at the very top of the H, but then also these very boisterous flowers on the right-hand side, like they're really popping outwards. But then you have that soothing flow of the ocean in the background. It's a really beautifully composed design. Oh, Carolyn says the gold foil has heat-activated adhesive with a heated pen to put it one on the cover. Oh my gosh, I didn't know there was heat-activated gold foil. That is really cool.
That's good to know. I don't know what I would do with that information for my own work, but that is really cool to know, actually.
I need to tell my kids about that. That sounds like something they would really like. Hot things that burn.
You're just gonna find a bunch of random gold streaks all over your house.
Yeah, like, I probably shouldn't tell them.
Like, we just bought this bookshelf and it's just half it's gold for no reason.
Yeah. Okay. Oh wait, Brazen says the flowers are kind of like plumerier, but not. Is that it too, Carolyn? Yeah, Carolyn, maybe you can tell us in the chat what specific flowers they were if you had something in mind. All right, the next artist we're going to look at is, I think you pronounce it Michal, but I could be wrong. Maybe you can tell us how to pronounce your name correctly because you are live with us here in the chat. We're so happy when you guys can be here. And so Michal says, I chose to create a portrait of a southern hognose snake as part of my ongoing study of wildlife. So Michal played around with concentrated watercolor, rendered the snake in colored pencil, and this is amazing. For the bling, Michal embroidered metallic thread into the piece and says that their high school art students helped me problem solve which thread would be the best. Look at this. These are the thumbnail sketches that Michal did for the piece. And then this is some of the liquid watercolor I'm guessing you were talking about. And here's more of the colored pencil work. And then this is the bling. And then look at this. If you guys look up close, do you see how the bling has been embroidered into the paper? Those like little bits of gold that are coming through.
Wow. That is so fascinating. I love the process of this. This is so cool. And it's also playing with the subtlety that we saw in the first piece. But I love how you're doing it with the pattern of the stripes and the marks on the snake. That's brilliant. I love that.
Oh my gosh. And this is one example where you really need the close-up shot to really see it, because from a glance, you can see this incredible detail that's in the snake. And this is a little hard to see too, so I have a close-up. Do you see these pieces of the gold in the embroidery, those like strokes? Those are all sewn into the drawing.
Wow. That's insane. Good stuff. I really like this. This is really, really cool. You mixed a lot of stuff in here.
Okay, so it's pronounced Michael, just spelled differently. Cool. Yeah, this is so brilliant. And it's nice because the embroidery, Michael, I think it really blends well with the colored pencil. Sometimes when you put two things that are so different, they almost feel too separate. But doesn't the embroidery really sink into the colored pencil technique beautifully?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it helps that the snake itself is a similar color. It's just an analogous scheme. So you have the orangish yellow, and then you have the gold and the black. I think that's just a really solid combination, and it works pretty much every time.
Michael says hognose snakes are so cute and funny. Yeah, I mean, I can see looking at this. Doesn't it have just a beautiful gesture? Like you can feel the weight and the movement of the snake in the drawing.
Mhm. Yeah, it's like what's the character's name? Ka from Jungle Book. Or you just felt. You never seen Jungle Book?
Of course I have, but it was like
Oh,
50 years ago.
well, fair enough. Well, yeah, it feels like that because in that film they were able to get the weight of the snake. I think you're definitely doing that here, especially with those shadows in the foreground areas. That's looking really solid.
Beautiful work, Michael. I mean, so much patience and time invested into such a lovely piece. All right, the next artist is Ginger. Ginger did these 3D frogs, and Ginger explains it was an opportunity to use my glittery clay. And I was on the phone with my sibling. They love frogs, so I made frogs. And I built a space that I imagined sparkly frogs would live in. And also, Ginger added these tiny gems, tying together all of the areas, used them as gem warts for my frogs. And the pearls were so much fun to make as well. Ginger also explained, slid them on a wire, dusted them with mica powder. And check this out because here's the early stage of the frogs being built into the environment. And isn't this so cute? Like, I
It is
just
pretty cute.
love this.
This is really, really cute. They look so friendly and fun. I want them to be real so they could start singing. You know, like
Yeah.
the frog from the Looney Tunes, the "Hello, my baby." Hello. Like that's kind of what I'm thinking of. Like he just has that kind of energy to me. It's great.
It's so funny, Ginger, because most of us don't think about warts as very pretty or gem like, but wow, they're so beautiful. The way they create those patterns on the back. And to me, just all these other accessories, the string of pearls, the little gemstones. It's so nice to create that little scene instead of just the frogs by themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that really adds to it because we talk about this in character design a lot. It's hard to have character design without the context of other things. And you can apply it to any art piece. And I think it's so much more fun to have your the warts or the frogs in an environment, even if it's just something simple like the pearls and the hat and all that stuff. But it really adds a lot of character to each of them.
Really nice comments from people in the chat. Jelly Jilly says adorable. Michael says love how happy they are. And yeah, Carolyn, it's so much fun when everybody shares their works in progress in the Discord. And then at the end of the month, we get to see what everybody finished. So thank you all for sharing that, because that to me is one of the best parts of the Dare, is really feeling like we're working together throughout the entire month. And what great facial expressions. I just love this little guy.
Yeah, they're just happy.
So plump too, you know?
Oh, that's always the best ones.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Lisa is pointing out really good photos. And also, Shannon mentioned earlier, I found it's really hard to photograph metallic watercolors. I think anything with Bling is really tough. I was using those pearlescent watercolors that I really thought were pretty vibrant, and they were so hard to photograph. So you did a great job with that, Ginger. That's not always the easiest thing to pull off. And we also have Manette, who is also here live with us in the chat. We love it when you guys are with us. And so Manette talks about Queen of the Cicadas, Manette's favorite horror novel, pulled me into two things, revenge and Goddess of Death. And so there are these two main characters, Milagros and Belinda, and how they're connected by their mutual desire to see justice for the brutal way Milagros was murdered and by the goddess who brought her back. So a really complex narrative being woven throughout this piece. And the bling is in the copper metallic acrylic ink. So let's take a look at the development that Manette went through, some of the thumbnail sketches. I mean, Manette, you did a lot of thumbnails. Isn't this great?
Yeah, we love thumbnails. Please do more of them, guys. Don't skip on the thumbnails. We have so many videos on our channel with thumbnails information in it.
It's great. And so we here see Manette starting to add some of the text. And isn't this a great photo? Like here you can really see the bling.
Yeah, no, it's coming across really, really well. And I actually really like it towards the bottom right where you can actually see the indentation of the pin itself and how the gold is kind of folding in like that. Because it doesn't happen anywhere else in the image. And I can't even think of another piece I've seen where that effect is so prominently seen. So really cool.
Oh, and your line work, Manette, is so beautiful, especially this area where you've layered so many lines to show the volume of the heart and also some of the cross hatching around the eyes. But you've also built these powerful structures that coexist with this really bold, bright background. I mean, it's a very intense story, I can tell from the way you've conveyed the image.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the colors, the way you're texturing things, the way you're kind of working with the words in the background, they all convey something very powerful, very strong and vibrant. So yeah, really cool stuff.
Yeah, Manette says, I think I ended up with about 11 thumbnails. Good. We approve. We're very happy when
Good
all of
stuff.
you are shining examples of thumbnail sketches. We've got some prizes to give out. The honorable mention goes to Michael Taylor Phillips for this beautiful snake painting. And the prize goes to Ginger for these wonderful, lovable, gem-filled, wart-filled frog creatures, however we want to categorize them. So thank you, everybody, for participating. We love seeing what you do, and we're so proud of all of your work. Let's get ready for the November Art Dare. The November Art Dare is called Not a Rectangle. The prompt is to create a 2D artwork that is not a rectangle. And so, Jordan, if we think about it, why is the rectangle the default shape we make art on?
I think one, it's probably just easy to construct. Two, at least now we're very used to seeing it because we have phones, we have books, we have movies, and they all have that exact same shape. And it's much more rare to see something that's got something of a unique silhouette or unique canvas. And so I think we're probably not as inclined to do it as much.
I rarely do stuff that's not a rectangle. I just don't want to be bothered. But it's very interesting how even a simple form like this, almost a circle, totally changes all of the compositional relationships because all of a sudden there's no corners. And so how do you organize that composition? And I think it's a great challenge for anybody who's working on composition. It just is such a great change of pace.
Yeah, I think it could really force you to break outside the box. We did a stream I think it was a couple months ago where we talked about the rule of thirds and if that was helpful or not. And one of the things we said in that stream was that it's almost I won't say a cop-out, but it's so common to see that those composition rules used. So something like this is going to force you to think differently. You're going to have to make sure that you're not using any established rules. You have to be very creative with it.
And there are definitely certain shapes throughout history that have strong associations. So, for example, a lot of these Chinese paintings are basically referencing the shape of a fan. And so there's this long tradition of fan-shaped paintings with landscapes over them. And it's so cool to see how things change because if you guys look at the lower right-hand corner, this is the seal that artists would do to sign their pieces. And usually a lot of the Chinese paintings, they're scrolls, so they're very tall. And so the signature is just up, vertical. But because this is a fan, the signature is tilted now. And I just think little format things like that are such a great way to experiment. And so it doesn't have to be a shape that we know. It doesn't have to be a circle. What do you think about this, Jordan? This is an abstract painting.
Yeah, this is definitely a polygon, but I don't know what I don't know beyond that what that is. But it looks really cool. It's definitely engaging, and I actually wish more abstract stuff looked kind of like this. I love the colors in these too. It looks really pretty.
Yeah, and this one's actually, it's a little bit 3D. If you look at the green triangle on the right, you can see a little bit of a shadow. And so in some cases, sometimes the way people have made paintings that are not rectangular is, let's say you have two sheets of paper and you just layer one over the other. All of a sudden you have a shape which is no longer a rectangle. So you don't have to take a piece of paper and cut it out. You can take multiple pieces of paper and assemble them. So that way they create a different shape, because shape is one of those things. I know, Jordan, you talk about it quite a bit for character design, but it's just such a simple concept that I think a lot of people just forget to think about it sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's sort of like ABCs in a way, because most people, even if your vision's not great, you can tell shapes by the silhouette, or you can tell what things are by the silhouette, whether it's something far off in the distance, something close, you tend to base things off of something like that. So yeah, keep it simple, guys.
Michael says ancient art also rarely follows a rectangular outline. And Carolyn says, I have some canvases that are circles and either octagons or hexagons. Don't remember which. And Ginger says, I do have access to the tools I need. And by the way, we're looking at these circular paintings right now, but you can even cut inside the shape. I mean, you can make a donut. You can make a piece that looks like Swiss cheese, or it doesn't have to be an enclosed shape. You can have holes or however you want the shapes to interact. Have you ever done a circular painting? I never have, Jordan.
I don't think I have either. If I did, it was a very unmemorable experience. Otherwise, I would have been able to come up with a better answer for you. I don't think I've ever done that, though.
Sometimes the paintings, they're just circles. But I really like this painting by Caravaggio. I saw it a really long time ago, so I totally can't remember, but it's painted on a shield. And so sometimes the shape of the canvas, like the fan, is actually referring to the object that it's been painted on. Because I do think nowadays we do think, oh, painting canvas, right? But there's a whole world of paintings that were actually done on objects that weren't pieces on canvas. And so this sort of opens up that possibility, because architecture is different when it's in a circle, right?
Yeah, the rules of perspective will probably be very different. And just to go back for a second about painting on different objects, one of the things I've always thought was really great was when people would paint on shoes and do like fan art on a shoe or something like that. I've always thought that was so fascinating and so nice. So yeah, just wanted to throw that in there.
Ginger says, if I did a rectangle with a hole in it, would that count? Wanted to do something like that in my painting class, but I chickened out. Oh yeah, it just can't be a plain rectangle. But if you cut little things out of it, that totally is eligible. Oh, and this is a really great suggestion. Anna says, one of my favorite artists is Elizabeth Murray. She basically invented the organically shaped painting. Yeah, Elizabeth Murray's a really great example. And obviously we have a bunch here for you to all look at. And remember, the shapes don't have to be clean or enclosed. I mean, this almost feels like fragments that have been collaged together. And sometimes the shapes are the most dynamic thing about the painting. I mean, I feel like I look at this and there are all these beautiful forms and everything, but isn't the shape really the main event here?
Oh, definitely. Like that's the first thing that I see. There's plenty of colors, plenty of textures, but especially if you're trying to look from far away or from a distance, the shape of it which is kind of indescribable, is the first thing that I see.
Ginger says, I really want to work a three-dimensional aspect into this somehow, but I don't know. Well, it goes back to what we were looking at with the Rockburn paintings. And actually this piece too, it looks like there's a piece of wood behind, and then there's another piece that's been glued on top. So that's a good way to play with shapes without having to like cut something out of wood, because that's kind of a pain. So you guys can certainly think about ways that you can make that happen. Carolyn's asking, didn't Perseus put Medusa's head on his shield after he killed her? I believe he did. My Greek mythology is a little rusty, but yes, there is a shield involved and snakes and bad stuff in Greek mythology. It's very, I guess, gory in some ways. So for those of you who want to try the Art Dare Leap, that's where you do something bigger than a single submission. And the Art Dare Leap we're going to give you is to create 4 different artworks, and each one has to be a different shape. Shape is just one of those things. It's just so fun to play with once you remember to play with it.
Yeah, there's an infinite variety of ways to combine things. I mean, I know I mention character design all the time, but part of the reason we recognize different characters is because they have different shapes, and that's simply it. So yeah, have fun with this one.
Dana says, I did a circular Golzius masterwork copy and it was impossible. I actually don't know who that artist is, but that sounds really cool. And I hope that people will share recommendations of various artists who work in all of these different shapes. We do have this wonderful space in our Discord for the Art Dares, and a lot of you who did the Art Dare this month were sharing throughout the month. We think this is just the best opportunity because, Jordan, it's just a bummer to just be by yourself. It's more fun to be with other artists.
Oh, that's probably the thing I miss most about art school in general. And I went to art school twice, and I, to this day, love my time in studio and lab working with everyone. So Art Dare's chat or the channel is going to be the closest thing for you guys to be able to achieve that here.
Yeah, and you don't have to have something finished to post. Oftentimes people will do thumbnails, post progress images. Sometimes people will post a picture of, oh, I'm thinking about using this paper. It's just the more the better, because that type of interaction between all of you throughout the month is really, really nice. To officially enter the Art Dare, you want to tag us on Instagram and you want to use hashtag #ArtProfDare. Now, if you are not on social media, don't worry about it. You can go to artprof.org, and if you go to Art Dares in the menu bar and you scroll down on the page, you will find that we do have a Google form. So you can fill this out to submit your stuff, and it is due the last day of the month. Join our Discord. It's where all the cool kids are hanging out, and I'm in there every day, and we just have so much fun answering your questions and supporting you. And I'd love to see some of you in there. We are not doing a Discord chat today because it's Halloween and my kids are going to come home with candy, which I'm going to steal. Do you ever do that? Well, you don't have kids.
I don't have kids.
Okay.
Maybe fine. I would though. Give me like 10 years and I'll get back to you on that. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Parents, tell me, do you eat your kids' candy? Because it's a little frightening the amount of candy they come home with. Yes. So join our Patreon group. This is so much fun because you get to share your art in weekly voice sessions. We provide support and critiques from our staff that are very long and nerdy. And most of all, you find support in a small group of artists. Thank you so much to our wonderful top Patreon supporters. You guys are the ones who are keeping us up and running. We so appreciate everything you have done for us. Visit artprof.org. There's so much content on there that's not on YouTube. Use the search bar. Art Prof is a podcast. It's available on Spotify and also on iTunes. And Pook and Yo-Yo would like you to subscribe for more tutorials, critiques, and business tips. Everybody, thank you so much for watching, and happy Halloween. Bye.